All right, this is like take 3 of this video. I got dogs running around my yard, puppies screaming, kids screaming, so not the most serene moment, but whatever. So, if you've watched the videos on this channel, you saw one about birdhouses and faith, and I was saying how we have these berry bushes, and every year it's like another 1,000,000 birds come in. And I was praying the other day to the Lord about what could be done about that, and I was hoping he would say something like, don't worry, I've got it taken care of, and it won't happen again. Maybe that's a ridiculous thing to hope, but I've seen him do amazing things, and so I don't hesitate to ask if I have reason to believe that it's important. So when I asked the question, I immediately found myself out here. I was inside, but I found myself out here in this garden. This is one of our gardens, and I'm showing you my dirty laundry here because it's covered in weeds. And this is notwithstanding the fact that we've spent hours out here weeding it, and we had this all clear except the plants wanted it in here. And then this happened like 3 seconds later. And it's amazing because season after season, we find ourselves with far fewer plants than we want because there's frost die off. We just had a frost. I'm wearing a jacket. It's almost the end of June. But even for our climate, we had an uncharacteristic frost the other day. And so here's some squash plants, you know, and I've been in situations where I grew these things inside in my basement with a plant light and for weeks, and all the seeds, or you go and you buy the plants from the store and you transplant them, and seeding a field this big, and this isn't our only one, you know, it takes a lot of time. And then you have to water it here because it doesn't rain enough usually, and on and on and on. And it's a lot of work. And but these weeds, somehow they just come up. And not only do they not get harmed by the frost, except one kind does, and I was really happy to see that. But not only that, I'm trying to find an example, but if you walk through here, you know, all the weeds will be nice and green, but the plants you planted will be turning yellow because the nutrition deficiencies, or they'll be all chewed up by bugs. That's what I was trying to find an example of. But the bugs don't touch any of the plants. And I've noticed all of this, you know. I spend a lot of time gardening, and I've noticed all of this. And so the Lord brought me out here, and we were standing here, and he said, you know, I'm looking at the plants, and he said, what do the bugs eat in this garden? I said, all the stuff I plant. And he said, do they eat the weeds? And I said, nope. And then he said, and I got the point. Like, it's amazing when the Lord explains stuff to you. You get the punchline way before it comes. And he said, I've designed these birds so that they'll eat berries and seeds and nuts. If you don't want them to eat your crops, what do you need to plant? And I said, the stuff they don't eat. And he said, yeah, that's right. And he explained how we have a choice. So the laws are set up, and they're not going to change, but we have a choice as to how they affect us. And so by what we choose to do, we're choosing the consequences that come attached to those choices. So if you want to try to grow tomatoes in zone 3, then you're going to face the fact that 3 out of 4 summers they're going to die before you get anything, And even when you have a good summer, you're going to get one crop off those tomato plants right at the end of the season, instead of having them all the time like you would if you were in zone 6 or something, zone 5, whatever. And that's a choice that you make. If you want to grow plants that all the bugs like to eat, you're either going to get them eaten by the bugs, or you're going to have to spray chemicals on them and do this and that, or have ladybugs or whatever the case may be, but it's all extra work. And so entropy exists, and you have to work against it, and you can't get out of that. You can't get out of that. We have all these bonkers ideas about what the rest of the Lord means, what paradise actually is, what the Garden of Eden was, and I'm not going to get into any of that, although I know a thing or two about it. What I do want to say, though, is that in life, you've heard the phrase, you have to choose your battles. Well, you've got so much time, you've got so many years to live, you've got so many years of youth before your back gives out, You never know when you're going to get sick permanently or something else is going to happen or whatever. But we have a fixed quantity of resources, and you get to pick how you're going to use them. So it's imperative to choose wisely. And what do I mean by that? Choose what has the greatest meaning. So I grow potatoes. Here's an example of something I did right, which is nice because I'm always very grateful when the Lord shows me something better or when I learn something better, but sometimes I do things right. So these are potatoes here, and we don't grow too many of them. And the reason is because where we live, potatoes are dirt cheap for now. But I grow just enough each year so that we have some, and I have enough that I could plant a lot more the next year if I wanted to. So I basically just plant enough potatoes to have an abundance of seed potatoes for the next year. And that way I have a way of propagating these things into a much bigger crop if I need to, because they do well here, actually, that type. I had to do some experimentation, but so you do what makes sense. And here's an example of what doesn't make sense. Here's some dried beans, right? And I've tried this. I think this is the 4th year I've tried dried beans, and every year something goes wrong. And I'm done now because I'd rather just buy them because it's way less hassle and cost right now. Plus, who really likes dried beans? Let's be honest. I actually like them quite a bit, but my digestive system does not, and my kids don't. So instead of pulling teeth on all fronts on that, we can just buy them while you can. And then once you can't buy them anymore, I just won't care, right? So it turns out in life, there's an awful lot of opportunities to choose what you want to pay for. And while it's a little more complicated in terms of how much you have to pay, that's sort of a different topic. Whatever it is you have, you should definitely bargain for the best that you can get. So in the meantime, it's really interesting and worth noting that of these weeds that we have in here, there are a few that I'm not really sure what to do with besides pull and give to the chickens. But one that's just crazy prolific is this one. And this is called lamb's quarters. And it's a relative, it's related to quinoa. And it will, if you leave it, it will generate a whole lot of seeds. I think each plant generates something like 70,000 seeds. And they are carried by the air, and that's why we have so many of them. So if you let just one plant go, you're going to have big problems. But it's totally edible, and you can cook it, you can eat it raw, you can cook the seeds. I don't think you can eat the seeds raw, So don't eat it at all until you do your own research, because I might be messing something up. But it tastes like spinach, and it's got way more vitamins than spinach. But it doesn't have some super funky taste to it or anything. So it's quite interesting to think that people grow spinach, right? But here, if you grow spinach, you're kind of an idiot, because if you just pick the weeds, you can get spinach for free. You don't have to do any work except harvest it. And the bugs won't eat it. The bugs will eat your spinach alive. So these are things worth thinking about, and the applications abound. So anyway, I hope you find applications for this in your own life. There's so many things that we do that just don't have value. And there's so many things, now I'm gonna choke to death on this dry leaf. There's so many things that have tremendous value that we don't go for. And there are so many things of tremendous value that we think we're going for, but for some reason we think we can get some bargain on it, and that we can get things of tremendous value for almost no price. And that happens sometimes, maybe, but for the most part, there's some stronger principles with that, but I'll leave it at that for now. But I guess basically, if you find something that's worth a lot and you get it for less than a lot, the only solution to that equation is that someone else paid the price. And that actually explains a lot of mysteries in life. Anyway, find the stuff that's worth what it costs and go for that. And I think you'll find that particularly life-changing.